Samurai Nippon. Ieyasu's decision, the truth behind the fall of the Toyotomi clan.
Black smoke rises over Osaka Castle. Tokugawa Ieyasu, the aging warlord in his 70s who now controls Japan, has drawn his sword to strike down his final enemy. The blade points toward Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the son of his former lord. Why was Ieyasu, already the ruler of Japan, so obsessed with extinguishing the Toyotomi bloodline? Until the Toyotomi clan is destroyed, the realm will never be secure. The obsession of an old tiger would dramatically alter the course of Japanese history. This is the chronicle of one man's final battle, where he staked everything for his ambition.
Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It helps our content reach you better.
Chapter 1. The Shadow of Hideyoshi.
Everything began with the death of a man who had reached the pinnacle of glory. In 1598, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the hero who unified Japan, drew his last breath. On his deathbed, Hideyoshi held the hand of his 6-year-old son, Hideyori, and left his retainers with a final plea: "I entrust this child to you." But that wish was destined to remain unfulfilled. Do not let the Toyotomi bloodline die. Out. Hideyoshi's final wish would later be engulfed in blood and flames. Before his death, Hideyoshi established a dual governing system, with the 5 elders and 5 commissioners, but the dead have no power to move the world. As Hideyoshi the sun set, those who had been lurking in the shadows began to move. At their center was Tokugawa Ieyasu. While outwardly playing the loyal vassal under Hideyoshi, he had secretly harbored ambitions, accumulating power in his vast Kanto domains, waiting for the right moment. That moment had finally arrived. Why had Hideyoshi given Ieyasu his potentially greatest political rival the enormous domain of 2 million koku? This fatal miscalculation would define the course of history. Young Hideyori lacked the strength to confront the enormous shadow cast by the Tokugawa. Even the desperate efforts of his mother, Lady Yodo, could not stop the wheels of fate. After Hideyoshi's death, a power vacuum emerged, with Ishida Mitsunari, head of the 5 commissioners, opposing Tokugawa Ieyasu, chief of the 5 elders. Their conflict would eventually develop into a bloody struggle that engulfed all of Japan.
Chapter 2. Sekigahara, the Watershed of Destiny.
In October 1600, both armies gathered at Sekigahara in Mino province. To the east stood the Eastern Army led by Ieyasu. To the west, the Western Army commanded by Mitsunari. This single battle would determine Japan's future. On the morning of the decisive battle, with mist lingering in the air, Ieyasu coldly analyzed the situation. He possessed not only military talent, but also an exceptional ability to manipulate people's hearts. Through prior machinations, he had secured the betrayal of Kobayakawa Hideaki, a key Western Army general. Perhaps the battle had already been decided before it even began. Now forward. With Ieyasu's command, the Eastern Army began to move. Amid the fierce combat between both armies, Kobayakawa's forces suddenly attacked the Western Army. The blade of betrayal tore through Mitsunari's forces. Ishida Mitsunari fought valiantly to the end, but was forced to retreat against the superior Eastern Army. Later captured, he was executed in Kyoto. Though Ieyasu had secured victory at Sekigahara, his heart remained unsatisfied. The true obstacle to national unification still remained. Toyotomi Hideyori was still alive in Osaka Castle. As long as the descendant of his former lord Hideyoshi existed, Ieyasu's government could not be considered complete. "I have no intention of giving the realm I built with my own blood to that child." Ieyasu's heart was filled with immeasurable ambition and fear.
Chapter 3. 2 Threats. The Lingering Shadow of the Toyotomi.
In Ieyasu's aging eyes, 2 threats remained. The first was the authority of the Toyotomi clan. Hideyoshi was a legendary figure who had risen from humble origins to become imperial regent. His prestige survived his death and was inherited by his son Hideyori. Formally, Ieyasu was still merely a vassal of the Toyotomi clan. This contradiction deeply wounded his pride. How long must I cower in Hideyoshi's shadow? Moreover, Hideyoshi had made the 5 elders pledge loyalty to Hideyori while he was alive. Theoretically, once Hideyori came of age, Ieyasu should have relinquished power to him. For Ieyasu, this was an unacceptable humiliation. The second threat was the fortress of Osaka Castle. Built by Hideyoshi, Osaka Castle was an impregnable fortress, combining the finest technology of the time. Protected by wide moats and high stone walls, this castle was difficult to capture with any military force. As long as Osaka Castle remains, the possibility of a Toyotomi revival will never disappear. As his own death approached, Ieyasu began devising a cold-blooded plan to eliminate these two threats. Time was running out for him.
Chapter 4. The shogunal succession and the old tiger's schemes.
In 1603, Ieyasu was appointed shogun, becoming Japan's ruler in both name and reality. Yet his ambition remained unsatisfied. 2 years later, Ieyasu suddenly transferred the position of shogun to his son Hidetada. Outwardly, this appeared to be retirement, but in reality, it was part of a grand scheme. By establishing the hereditary succession of the shogunate within the Tokugawa family, he laid the groundwork for eliminating the Toyotomi clan. The current shogun is Tokugawa Hidetada, my son. There is no reason to return power to Hideyori. This political maneuver demonstrated Ieyasu's fearsome talent. While continuing to hold real power as the retired shogun, Ieyasu demanded that Hideyori pay homage to Hidetada. When Hideyori refused, Ieyasu gained the pretext to condemn him. Refusing to pay homage is rebellion against the shogun. The aging Ieyasu felt urgency in his heart. With his life running short, he needed to remove the Toyotomi, his final obstacle. He allowed Hidetada to participate in governing, but personally handled dealings with Western Japan. Hidetada doesn't yet have the strength to destroy the Toyotomi clan. Every night, Ieyasu would gaze toward Osaka, contemplating, searching for the perfect opportunity to destroy the Toyotomi clan.
Chapter 5. The path to isolation.
Day by day, the Tokugawa shadow grew larger, while the Toyotomi light gradually diminished. The Tokugawa family had accumulated enormous wealth, controlling not only 4 million koku of land, but also mines and trading ports across the country. Meanwhile, the Toyotomi clan had been reduced to a mere daimyo, with just 650,000 koku. However, the Toyotomi still had powerful supporters. Kato Kiyomasa, Fukushima Masanori Asano, Nagamasa former generals who had served Hideyoshi. They could not abandon their loyalty to the Toyotomi clan. I cannot forget the debt I owe to Lord Hideyoshi, who saved me. Hoping for reconciliation between the Tokugawa and Toyotomi, they arranged a meeting between Hideyori and Ieyasu at Nijo Castle in Kyoto in 1611. At this meeting, Ieyasu witnessed the persistent loyalty to the Toyotomi clan firsthand. There was no time left for hesitation. After the meeting, a series of inexplicable events occurred. Kato Kiyomasa and Asano Nagamasa, who had worked to arrange the meeting, died suddenly. Asano Yukinaga also died young, and Ikeda Terumasa passed away as well. As if by the hand of God, the Toyotomi supporters disappeared one after another. Those were assassinations, some whispered, but there was no evidence. Only the widening circle of isolation around the Toyotomi remained as an undeniable fact. Ieyasu encouraged the Toyotomi clan to undertake temple reconstruction projects. Ostensibly for war recovery, these were actually strategies to drain the Toyotomi's financial resources. Once they lose both money and soldiers, they will eventually yield. The trap set by the cunning old Ieyasu gradually cornered the Toyotomi.
Chapter 6. The Hokoji Temple. Bell inscription incident. A pretext for war.
In 1614, the Wheel of Fate turned dramatically. A new bell was installed at Hokoji Temple in Kyoto, rebuilt by the Toyotomi clan. Its inscription, "May the state be peaceful and prosperous." Goja Ankang incurred Ieyasu's wrath. He claimed the character Kang prosperity in the inscription referred to his name, Ieyasu, and that Ankang implied pacifying Ieyasu, thus being disrespectful. This is clearly a provocation. Though obviously a pretext from today's perspective, Ieyasu used this as an excuse for war. In fact, the bell in question remained at Hokoji Temple undestroyed even after the Toyotomi clan's fall, revealing the true nature of this incident. The Toyotomi clan sent their elder, Katagiri Katsumoto, to explain to Ieyasu, but he refused even to meet him. Meanwhile, he promised peace to Lady Yodo's messenger, who came through a different channel. This double dealing caused discord within the Toyotomi clan. In confusion, the Toyotomi expelled Katsumoto. Losing their negotiation channel with the Tokugawa, the conflict between the two parties reached an irreparable stage. Ieyasu further denounced the Toyotomi for gathering Ronin masterless samurai at Osaka Castle, declaring that they are planning an attack on the Tokugawa. He finally raised the signal for war. Now is the time to extinguish Hideyoshi's bloodline. In the cold winter wind, the Tokugawa army began moving toward Osaka.
Chapter 7. The Winter Siege of Osaka, a frozen confrontation.
In November 1614, breathing white mist in the cold air, 200,000 Tokugawa troops surrounded Osaka Castle. Fukushima Masanori, a powerful Toyotomi supporter, was detained in Edo by Ieyasu's scheme and could not participate in the battle. The Toyotomi were almost completely isolated. However, Ronin, who had lost at Sekigahara with nothing to lose, had gathered at Osaka Castle. Among them, Sanada Nobushige Yukimura was the enemy Ieyasu feared most. Can Osaka Castle be taken? To Ieyasu's question, his retainers could only shake their heads. Protected by wide moats and high stone walls, Osaka Castle was not easily captured with the military technology of the time. As winter cold intensified, the Tokugawa army surrounded Osaka Castle while capturing nearby fortresses. During this process, Sanada Maru, the fortress defended by Sanada Nobushige, achieved the feat of repelling the Tokugawa forces. That's Sanada. He's quite formidable. Ieyasu clicked his tongue. To break the stalemate, Ieyasu ordered artillery bombardment. Cannon shells struck Osaka Castle, terrorizing the people inside. When Lady Yodo's lady-in-waiting was killed by the bombardment, the shaken Toyotomi side sued for peace. Ieyasu accepted and demanded the filling of Osaka Castle's outer moats as a condition for peace. The winter siege ended with this truce, but Ieyasu broke his promise by forcing them to fill not only the outer moats, but the inner moats as well. Osaka Castle's defensive capabilities were severely reduced, no longer impregnable. Ieyasu paid no heed to criticism calling him dishonorable for breaking his promise. His eyes now saw only the existence of the Toyotomi clan.
Chapter 8. The Summer Siege of Osaka, the final battle in flames.
In April 1615, as the last cherry blossoms fell, the final battle began. Using the pretext that the Toyotomi had begun digging out the filled inner moats, Ieyasu launched another attack on Osaka Castle. This time there would be no truce. It was a fight to the death until one side was annihilated. "You broke the truce first," Ieyasu declared, infuriating the Toyotomi, but it was too late. Osaka Castle, having lost its moat defenses, was no longer the impregnable fortress it once was. The Toyotomi army was forced into field battles outside the castle. Sanada Nobushige and Mori Katsunaga made their final gambita direct assault on Ieyasu's headquarters. If we take Ieyasu's head, we have a chance of victory. Their desperate attack broke through the Tokugawa defensive lines and temporarily collapsed Ieyasu's headquarters. Ieyasu himself was forced to flee, finding himself in a perilous situation. But the counterattack of the numerically superior Tokugawa army was devastating. Sanada Nobushige, after killing many enemies, was finally slain. At 47, he met his end as a model samurai. That's Sanada. He fought magnificently to the end. Ieyasu had to acknowledge his enemy's valor. Sanada Nobushige's death greatly reduced the Toyotomi army's morale. Mori Katsunaga and others could not withstand the Tokugawa counterattack and were forced to retreat to Osaka Castle. On May 7th, the Tokugawa army stormed into Osaka Castle like a tidal wave, finally capturing it. Engulfed in flames, Osaka Castle lost its former glory and collapsed in black smoke. Lady Chacha. Lady Yodo spoke to her son with trembling body. "Let us go to your father's side." In her eyes, there were no longer even tears, only quiet resignation and a moment's relief. Toyotomi Hideyoshi committed suicide with his mother, ending his life at just 22. Hideyori's son, Kunimatsu, was captured and executed, while his daughter became a nun and lived out her life. Thus, the Toyotomi clan was extinguished, and the Tokugawa unification of Japan was complete. Ieyasu's obsession had finally borne fruit. Is it over? Ieyasu gazed into the distance for a moment. Nothing could be read from his expression. Was it the joy of victory or something else?
Chapter 9. The Price of Power.
Osaka was engulfed in flames, and the former glory of the Toyotomi clan turned to ashes. In July 1615, the Tokugawa established the laws for the military houses to strengthen control over the daimyo, and the laws for the imperial court and nobility to restrict the imperial court's authority. They thoroughly consolidated their system to ensure no entity like the Toyotomi could ever emerge again. All Toyotomi territories were confiscated, and their retainers lost their place. The once flourishing town beneath Osaka Castle temporarily fell into ruin, but was later redeveloped as directly controlled shogunal territory. Osaka would develop into a commercial city known as the nation's kitchen. Ironically, the Tokugawa era prospered on the foundation built by the Toyotomi. Yet in the shadow of victory, Ieyasu paid a heavy price. The false accusations in the Hokoji Temple Bell inscription incident, breaking promises during the winter siege of Osaka, these actions damaged Ieyasu's reputation, branding him as cowardly and treacherous. Later, historians would harshly criticize Ieyasu's actions. Destroying the child of his former lord and breaking peace treaties were considered contrary to the way of the samurai. Abandon name, take the realm. Ieyasu chose the security of the Tokugawa family over his own reputation. Perhaps it was a painful decision to prevent future civil war and build a stable nation. Many of the Toyotomi governance systems were inherited by the Tokugawa Shogunate: land surveys, sword hunts, the Vermilion Seal ship trade system, checkpoint. Developments policies that Hideyoshi had advanced as national unification measures were adopted by Ieyasu and further developed. While destroying his political rival, the Toyotomi clan, Ieyasu greedily absorbed their useful legacy. This demonstrates Ieyasu's excellence as a pragmatist. Without being swayed by emotion, he actively incorporated whatever was beneficial for national governance. 1 year after the Siege of Osaka, on June 1, 1615, Ieyasu collapsed from a stomach illness at Osaka Castle and drew his last breath. He was 75 years old. His final words were reportedly, "The realm is now stable." Did he leave this world with satisfaction at having completely destroyed the Toyotomi clan? Or was there regret for his actions? No one knows. Ieyasu's true feelings disappeared with him into his grave. After Ieyasu's death, the Tokugawa Shogunate ruled Japan for over 260 years, bringing a long era of peace. From the perspective of Japan's stability, Ieyasu's choices may have been correct. He did not fear staining his hands with blood. Perhaps that was the lonely destiny of one who holds power.
Chapter 10. The Darkness in Ieyasu's Heart.
We cannot overlook the complex psychology behind Ieyasu's destruction of the Toyotomi clan. From a young age, Ieyasu experienced life as a hostage, constantly living in dangerous environments where his life hung in the balance. He suffered deep humiliation when Oda Nobunaga killed his eldest son, Nobuyasu, and when his wife was sent to Nobunaga as a hostage. Having walked a turbulent life from childhood, Ieyasu eventually developed a mindset based on suspicion and fear. He understood to his very bones the dangers of trusting others. Trust your own judgment rather than others' words, that was Ieyasu's creed. Ieyasu likely harbored complex feelings toward Hideyoshi. Jealousy that Hideyoshi had risen from peasant origins to become ruler of Japan, the humiliation of being treated as Hideyoshi's vassal, and the golden opportunity presented by Hideyoshi's sudden death. These probably created a whirlpool of complex emotions within Ieyasu. Furthermore, his conflict with Ishida Mitsunari greatly influenced Ieyasu's psychology. Jealousy and wariness toward Mitsunari, who was deeply trusted by Hideyoshi, may have eventually expanded into hostility toward the entire Toyotomi clan. For Ieyasu, the Toyotomi's existence constantly threatened the legitimacy of his own power, while simultaneously reminding him of his past subordinate relationship, an unpleasant memory. Destroying Hideyori symbolically meant final liberation from Hideyoshi's influence. Only by defeating the final enemy will this truly become my realm. Such thoughts might have existed in the depths of Ieyasu's heart. However, Ieyasu simultaneously possessed the cool judgment of a pragmatist. Undoubtedly, his destruction of the Toyotomi clan was influenced not only by personal feelings, but also by the political judgment to stabilize the Tokugawa regime. Inside Ieyasu, personal emotions and political judgments were complexly intertwined. This complex psychology might explain his seemingly contradictory actions in the Hokoji Temple Bell inscription incident and the Siege of Osaka. What truly lay in the depths of the aged Ieyasu's heart, that truth remains a mystery even after more than 400 years.
Chapter 11. History's Judgment.
We cannot judge Ieyasu's actions by modern values. The era in which he lived was a cruel world where mercy could become your undoing. Show mercy, and you will eventually face revenge. Ieyasu believed this to his very marrow. Was completely destroying the Toyotomi clan a necessary decision for the stability of the Tokugawa family and Japan? Or was it merely personal grudge and attachment to power? Even among historians, evaluations of Ieyasu are divided. On one hand, there is criticism that his actions were cold-blooded and immoral. Destroying the son of his former lord and breaking peace treaties are viewed as contrary to the way of the samurai. Questions also remain about whether it was necessary to completely annihilate the Toyotomi clan, when they had already been weakened to the point where they could not oppose the Tokugawa. Some suggest there might have been more moderate solutions, such as relocating Hideyori to a distant domain. On the other hand, some evaluate that Japan enjoyed a long peace precisely because of Ieyasu's decisions. Perhaps he was willing to sacrifice his own honor to leave a stable country for future generations. Even at the cost of my reputation, I will not leave challenges for those who remain. Ieyasu's words reveal the resolution of a lonely ruler. The Edo shogunate he established brought over 260 years of stability. The era of warfare ended, commoner culture blossomed, and Japan's unique culture matured. This too must be counted among Ieyasu's great achievements. How we evaluate Ieyasu's choices depends on whether we prioritize the stability of power or moral justice. Perhaps we cannot judge the actions of historical figures by simple standards of good and evil. They appear as light or shadow, depending on the angle from which we view them.
Epilogue: The Unvanquished Ghost.
Osaka Castle was rebuilt by the Tokugawa family. The Osaka Castle we see today is not from the Toyotomi era, but was built during the Tokugawa period. This is perhaps symbolic, the victors rewrite history. Yet in the depths of history lie truths that cannot be erased. While the Tokugawa built 260 years of peace, the Toyotomi clan never completely disappeared from Japanese memory. The tragic ends of Hideyoshi and Hideyori have been passed down through countless stories and plays. The ghost of the Toyotomi lived on in people's hearts even during the Tokugawa era. Ieyasu succeeded in destroying the Toyotomi clan, but he could not erase their memory. This is both the irony and the truth of history. The realm is now stable. These words likely contained both satisfaction at having destroyed the Toyotomi and a sincere wish for the stability of the Tokugawa family and Japan. How should we evaluate Ieyasu's choices today? They appear as light or shadow, depending on our perspective. One thing is certain: his decisions dramatically changed Japanese history. And the story of a man who staked everything for power continues to resonate deeply in our hearts more than 400 years later. Ieyasu's obsession finally bore fruit.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Stay tuned for our next video. Thank you for watching until the end.